What if the problem isn't you? What if you're in the wrong room? My suspicion? You're not broken and you don't need to be fixed. You've outgrown where you are. Let's get more space and freedom to redesign the life you deserve. Welcome to the Reinvention Room. I'm Allison Hare, podcast launch strategist for ambitious leaders, and we are rethinking everything we've been taught. Part pop culture, part real talk, and all smarter ways to live life on your own terms. Y'all, today is a big day. Do you remember after everybody on Earth watched Tiger King during the pandemic, right when we were all locked in? And right after it, The Vow dropped on HBO. Do you remember this? So The Vow documented the rise and stunning takedown of the notorious cult NXIVM. Y'all know I love talking about cults, and today is like the Super Bowl of cults. And one of the women at the center of NXIVM was Sarah Edmondson, who is here today, and I'm lucky enough to call her friend, as you'll hear how we met. Sarah was a key ranking member and subsequent whistleblower to NXIVM. It was set up as a self-help program that promised empowerment. It attracted celebrities, which, is kind of going to attract credibility, and really thought that they were going to change the world together. And honestly, when I heard the premise of this, I would have totally signed up for it. But what it delivered, and through just the passage of time and just power and all of that stuff, was manipulation, control, and abuse disguised as personal growth. And so for 12 years, Sarah climbed its ranks. She ran trainings, she opened up her own centers, and believed that she was helping people find purpose. Until she uncovered a secret inner circle where women were, get this, they were branded, they were blackmailed, and they were bound to obedience. It ended up turning into a sex cult. It's so crazy, right? Her courage to go public turned a hidden nightmare into front page news on the New York Times and triggered kind of a global reckoning about influence, power, and belonging. Today, Sarah co-hosts the podcast A Little Bit Culty, breaking down the mind games that keep smart people stuck in cults, in toxic systems, in relationships, and even in their own blind spots. And honestly, we are surrounded by culty stuff. She is also the best-selling author to the book Scarred and an upcoming second book co-written with her husband, Anthony Nippy Ames, who she met and married in the NXIVM cult. This new book that is coming out is a guide to protect yourself from cults, coercion, and control. This conversation is part one, is about how that happens, why it's more common than you think, and what freedom really looks like when you take your power back. And if you know people who are like me, intensely curious about cults, send this episode to them right now so you can talk about it. This is not an episode that you listen to and move on. You kind of want to talk about it with somebody. This is part one of Inside the Notorious NXIVM Cult, Sarah Edmondson's story. Let's talk to her. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Sarah
Yay.
Edmondson is here, finally.
3 years later.
It's been 3 years. It's so good to see you.
Are you going to say how we met?
Why don't you tell him?
From my perspective? From my perspective?
Yeah.
So I just moved here, actually around the corner. 3 years ago, we were staying in a furnished rental here in Atlanta. I'd moved from Canada. And I think you had seen The Vow, or
I did,
and had watched or heard the podcast. You were aware of.
I saw
my
The Vow,
story.
and well, I think it would be great to set this up because I saw The Vow, and I'm like, I would do exactly what Sarah did. When you see people and you're like, I would be your friend in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you just get them.
Yes.
And that's how I felt. And then I see you on Instagram, like I'm just following you on Instagram as I would, and you're in my neighborhood.
Right. And I get a message saying, hey, welcome to Atlanta. I've seen The Vow. I don't remember if you'd heard the podcast at that point, but you were familiar with my story. And you said, welcome to the neighborhood. And let me know if you need anything like a hairdresser, any kind of, advice. And I think I said that I would actually. I just moved and I didn't really know my way around. And then I think I said something like, I'm actually about to go for a walk. Would you like to meet up? And it turned out that we were a few blocks away. Yeah. We met up for a walk on the Beltline and started talking and had a good time.
There you have it.
And the rest is history.
Here we are. I'm excited to talk to you. This is like the Super Bowl of cults for me. I mean, I love talking about cults, but you were a key whistleblower for one of the most notorious and infamous cults in the world, is NXIVM.
Oh, that's crazy when I hear you say it like that. But
why?
Well, it's just, it's when we were in NXIVM. Let me say that again. When we were in NXIVM, we had learned about cults. It was actually a module was taught to us about like what to say if people said that we were a cult. So I knew not a ton about cults, but I knew that we for sure weren't a cult.
No.
And now I'm here. You're saying it's the most nefarious. One of them for sure. It's definitely up there in terms of its reach. Well, it was not the most successful. Like it's kind of a smaller cult, but definitely in terms of its famousness at this point. Yeah, it's quite wild to think back to those years and then where I am now and what we're doing here is just bizarre. But here we are. It
is bizarre. And, I think because when people think about cults, like, oh, I would never do that. I would never fall for a cult. I'm too smart. Mm-hmm. And I think we are all in cults, like I think we're all susceptible to belonging. And people ask me all the time, why are you so obsessed with cults? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've dodged bullets and I've probably been and probably am in cults, Mm-hmm. I mean, there can be some that are not, benign and some that can be incredibly dangerous. And I don't think it is even susceptibility. I think it is identifying of our need to belong. And I'd love to, if you would be willing to start in the beginning. Was it 2005?
Yes. Yeah. And let me just add a point to your point, which is, doing what I do now, which in terms of shining light and trying to educate people as to what cults look like and how to avoid them. It is interesting because the times have changed thanks to The Vow on HBO and all the other many docs on all the streaming services that have emerged recently in this golden age of cult awareness, as we like to call it in the space. But even still, that is the general sentiment is, yeah, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And I would have, I can see the red flags. Like, yeah, you can see the red flags when you watch the documentary, but you don't necessarily see the red flags when you're going through the experience. So to answer your question, in 2005, I was a, kind of typical struggling actress in terms of being at a stage in my life. I was 26, about to turn 27, so not like really an adult quite yet. Technically, I was a working actor, but not feeling particularly fulfilled or that I'd, found my true calling and that I had this niggling feeling that there was more. So that was sort of like the career aspect. And even in the 8 years of healing since I left NXIVM, I've peeled back more and more layers as to like what made me susceptible. Even, today I'm preparing an episode for my podcast tomorrow about fawning. We all know about fight or flight, but there's also flee and fawn.
So what is fawn? What's the definition of
fawning? Is, and I'm going to butcher this because it's not my forte. Highly recommend having Ingrid on your podcast. She's awesome.
What's her last name?
Blanking on it right now, but I will text you.
All right.
Yeah, she's great. And her book, Fawning, is amazing. And it basically is the natural instinct, for safety, just with fight or flight, to protect yourself. Fawn is to get along with, to people please, to accommodate. It looks differently for different people, but to appease. So I didn't really realize how bad that was for me. In NXIVM, actually, they had a name for it. It was called like me disease because everything was very victim shamey and self-focused, as if there's something wrong with me, but it's a very normal thing to be safe, especially if you have any kind of childhood trauma, to make sure everything's okay around you. And some people, different people have different ways of dealing with it, but accommodating or people-pleasing is fawning. Again, this is not my field. I'm just learning about it. But the point is that in prepping for this episode tomorrow, I'm like, wow, I'm learning even more about what was going on for me, especially as I encountered this group. And there were things that were definitely red flags, but I didn't have the tools to even, A, understand what I was looking at, but B, when things were uncomfortable, it was easier for me to go along with certain things, partly because I also had no capacity to project the kind of ill intent or nefarious intentions of the leader. I projected my own altruistic image of somebody who would want to change the world and use their intelligence to have a lasting impact. So I know I'm jumping ahead a lot. I was an actress.
And also a seeker.
A seeker, 100%.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And in our next book, we call this situational vulnerability. So it's not a flaw. It's not like you're a weak, stupid person for getting involved in a cult. You have certain traits. And one of my traits is that I am a seeker. I'm very open. I believe in the possibilities of the universe. I'm spiritual-ish, also a little bit skeptical. My parents were therapists. But the situational vulnerability part is also that I was at a crossroads with my career. I wanted more. I was at a crossroads with my relationship. I thought maybe we were going to get married, but it wasn't quite the relationship for me. I need to, fix those things. And then normal human, tribal, genetic things. I wanted more community. I wanted more belonging. I wanted to feel like I fit in somewhere. I wanted to find my people. So there was a lot of things going on for me that made me quite ripe for the picking.
You went on a cruise, right?
Yes.
Is this how this came about?
Yeah, I was at a film festival with my boyfriend at the time, who is and still is a filmmaker. And he made a film that got into a festival where the director of What the Bleep was one of the guests of honors.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that
I'm
movie.
like the only person that knew it,
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it was really big in Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver's West Coast is very like spiritual, new age. Everyone was watching that movie. So when I had the opportunity to meet the director, I was all in. And he's the one who told me about NXIVM, or at the time, the course that I took was Executive Success Programs. And I really jumped in without Googling. I wanted to work with him. I wanted to work with like-minded, this is how he pitched it, because he didn't know either, humanitarians who were going to change the world. And it sounded like my purpose is like,
I would have totally done that
yeah.
too.
Had I met you then, I would have 100%.
recruited me?
Oh yeah, I would have roped you right in alongside with me.
Well, I think that was what was interesting, is that when you're thinking about a group that is focused on being a better human, about making a difference, they talk now, 2025, this is 2005, 20 years ago. They talk about purpose anxiety. What is my purpose? Where should I be? How can I be of service? How can I make this one life that we have purposeful? And what does that even mean? And so finding something that has some kind of structure to help you kind of climb that ladder of success, of enlightenment, of all of those things. And, when you think about cults, you think of robes, you think about, what do you think about?
Shaved heads.
Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, just killing yourself in a group thing or end time. So what were the red flags back then?
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the measurable levels of success, because I think that's another area that made me susceptible. Is that being an actor, you don't have a roadmap to success. There's no do this, then this, and this, and then you're famous. And do this and this and this, and then you'll be a working actor. It's so arbitrary. And so what I was presented with when I joined ESP or NXIVM was that this would be a measurable path to my growth and my success and my happiness. And it was like the martial arts system of ranks. So if you
those dorky sashes,
which by the way, like my kids are in jiu-jitsu and taekwondo, and they have colors in this.
You're getting triggered.
I'm like, I mean, I can see the merit to it, and I think it's great that they do it, but I also see how a system like that can also be abused, because you're going into in that case, a dojo, and you're asking a coach or a facilitator to train you. There's instantly a power imbalance. There's instantly a power differential. Someone's training you. In other words, they call the shots. If somebody has any bad intent to abuse or exploit, in that setting, they are immediately the one who's deferred to, which is just inherently a problem. So you have to be so careful. Just a little sidebar to all the parents out there. It's like all of these places where you're handing over your power to an authority is, something you really have to be really careful and see the red flags. So to answer your question, the sashes were a huge red flag. I mean, there were so many things right on day one of my very first training that were incredibly triggering and alarming to me. But the leadership were trained to handle this, and they did something that was very smart. And if you've seen The Vow, you'll know Nancy Salzman is this over the top personality, the head of the school, and she's on a video because she doesn't go to all the training. She's on a video so that this can be duplicated. And she's saying, we're here to grow and you're here for your success, right? And do you understand that all successful people are aware of their limitations? And of course, everyone goes, yeah, okay, we're all, if we're successful, all successful people are aware of, this is, by the way, like high level neurolinguistic programming right from the beginning, where she's getting people to agree that A, we want to be successful. B, successful people are aware of their limitations. So you're already saying I have limitations. And your limitations, when they come up, feel uncomfortable. And you can feel that in your body. And what she's saying is when you feel the urge to leave or to bolt, that's a sign that you've hit up against an area to grow.
Wow. So not even acknowledging that your body feelings have any merit, but like they are wrong and bad. They are a reflection that something is wrong with you.
Yeah, it was phrased a little bit more like if you're upset about, say, wearing a satin piece of cloth around your neck, what does that mean to you that you're upset?
Gaslighting 101.
100%. We're gaslit from the beginning, but we're accepting it, saying, I have these feelings and I'm here to grow and I'm paying money and I want to be successful. So if I have the feelings, there's something there to look at. And oftentimes there's some truth in there. For example, with the sashes, if I have any authority issue, or if I have any issue with, in my case, measuring my growth or having a career path that's measurable, I'm not going to want to wear the sash, which was true. I was like, I don't want to wear white. I don't want to wear this color. I want to wear the green. What do I have to do to get the green, which is like the highest one there, right? So there was truth in my reactivity towards the sash, but also there was mixed in with that reactivity, and my gut was like, this is fucking weird. Get out. And it's really hard to tell the difference.
I wonder if the power structure is a continuous test for you to surrender.
Yeah,
for you to
100%.
surrender.
100%. In fact, I even learned later when I became the person that put on these trainings, like 5 years later, that we were to create an environment where people could question if they needed to, but would also weed out the people who they called it, that they said that the sashes and the ranking system was the guardian at the gates. Almost every training of 30 to 40 people, that'd be one person's like, I'm not going to do that. And they'd be like, it's okay, you can go. And we let them leave. If this isn't for you, that's fine. And we also gave them the opportunity to say, like, well, what does the sash mean to you that you feel like it's so upsetting? And it wasn't like a overt gaslighting. And people, I didn't know that I was doing that. I thought that the sashes meant something to them that may be worth looking at. Like, for example, there was somebody who'd come from South Africa and they'd come from this oppressive, like totally corrupt government. And so I'm like, of course, they're not going to trust the ranks of a militaristic type of, measurable system because it's going to trigger them. And I'd want to explore that with them. That's the kind of thing that I thought I was doing. But yeah, almost every intensive, there'd be people who left, and we were like, that's good that they're not here. Those people clearly aren't people that want to do this work. But now I know it's just weeding out the people that weren't going to be compliant.
But also it's humiliating. Like you can leave. And so you have to get up and walk out and almost make a scene where if you're somebody that wants to belong and fawn, you don't want to be called out like that as being somebody that is adversarial.
Correct.
I wonder, talk to me about Keith Raniere.
Oh, what do you want to know?
I mean, Keith Raniere is the leader of NXIVM, right? And so he started this as an organization that is supposed to be like a personal development thing, which to me sounds really appealing, especially in 2005, before we had all this cult language.
Yeah, you would have loved. Sorry, my skirt's really short. I'm just gonna pull that down a little bit. You would have loved DSP, Allison. Like every now and then, I feel like, oh, maybe I should just put on a 5-day and invite my friends.
No,
I would never. But the thought crosses my mind because there were so many great tools in that first training that were so helpful in life. Communication and goal setting and understanding your relationship to important concepts like relationships and money and self-esteem. It was very holistic. It was also, it had seeds planted in it for future exploitation. If you just took a 5-day and then went back to your life, you'd probably be just fine. But there were some elements in it that Keith, I believe, planted to ensure loyalty and ensure the ability to gaslight forever without ever being called out. Can I give an example of that?
Yeah.
There's a trope in personal development, if you look at things like Tony Robbins and Landmark Forum and things like that, where a big part of it is personal responsibility. Something happens in your life, you're not necessarily a victim. You may have participated in some way to cause, or NXIVM terms, author that. And so it was very empowering at a certain point to shift my perspective of like, oh, this thing happened to me, to, okay, what expectations did I have that set myself up for this? Or, what information did I miss that caused me to get in whatever situation it was? So that was really empowering, and it can be really wonderful to have personal responsibility in your life, but it can also be used for someone to abuse.
Yeah.
Because there's in that world, in our mission statement, one of the lines actually was, "There's no ultimate victims, therefore I'll not choose to be a victim." So if I'm feeling victimized in a situation like that, or want to have a complaint, it's very easy for the leadership to say, well, for example, you seem really upset about that. Well, what expectations were you? Are you not taking full responsibility for? Or a number of questions that could elicit sort of me going, oh, wow, this is actually all my fault. Versus, no, I'm being abused, or I'm being hurt, or I'm being lied to or exploited in some way.
Isn't it interesting that it feels like it is disempowering, but it's positioned as a way to empower yourself by admitting your own responsibility with it?
And that just got worse, by the way, what you just said. Like, it was all framed as empowerment, but it was all enslavement over time.
The enslavement aspect of it, the Keith Raniere spectrum of where he started, and that, you were in it for 12 years, right? And you were not in, what was it, Buffalo, New York?
Albany,
New York.
Worse.
You were.
No offense to anyone watching in Albany.
It's not a compound.
No.
It was not a compound, but people did move there.
Yeah.
You did not.
I did not move there, no.
Did you consider it?
Yeah, actually, towards our last few years there, and I was there 12 years, there was big push for me to move to Albany. My husband and I actually had what we called our crash pad. It was like
You met your husband in
I met
the
my
cult.
husband there. Yeah, I met my husband there. When I first got there, I was with my filmmaker boyfriend, and then we eventually broke up, partly because I was going up the straight path more quickly than he was, and it was a strain on our relationship. I also think that the leadership was trying to break us apart because Keith Raniere, who you asked about earlier, the leader of NXIVM, had plans for me, but I never bought into his.
What do you mean plans for you?
I believe that he wanted me for his harem. That I found out about much, much later. So keep in mind, when I joined in 2005, talk about the red flags that were early on, I had a sense that there may have been relations with him and one or two of the women, but we'd been told that he was celibate and that he was a renunciate. So he had no need.
What is renunciate?
Renunciate is like a monk. Like, I have no need for possessions. Like, he didn't drive a car. He seemed like living a very simple life.
And that was to keep his name off of the books, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which later blew up in his face.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So he was a renunciate celibate. And when I had the hit that maybe there was, that was like he'd always come into events like flanked by women. And most of the time that was either his executive board or high-ranking women in NXIVM. So it's like I dismissed those thoughts. Also, like, we weren't allowed as coaches to have relationships with the students that we brought in. So why would he do that with the people beneath him? Like, there were so many justifications as to why that in my head as to why he would never do that.
Hey, it's Allison. Thanks for listening. My guest today, Sarah Edmondson, knows that having a podcast to share your stories, your insight, and your ideas can make a huge impact to influence change. And if you're looking to grow your impact and influence and income, a podcast is one of the greatest ways to do it. I am offering a free clarity call if a podcast has been on your to-do list, but you haven't quite put all the pieces together. Go to AllisonHair.com/free call and let's explore yours. Listen, your future audience is out there. Talk to them. Let's get back to the show.
But yeah, how he would do it, and I found out later from other women that did accept his invitations, is that he was never straight up like, hey, would you like to engage in sexual relations or anything like that, or go on a date. It was, he would have one of his flying monkeys, so one of the women around him. Like,
flying monkeys?
Yeah, so this is a term from The Wizard of Oz, but it's basically any narcissist will have people to do the bidding. So Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right. There's so much overlap.
So much overlap. Yeah.
Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah. And she was more than a flying monkey. I mean, she's a co-conspirator and did awful things. And same with Keith. He had women around him. He never called me directly and said, hey, would you like to do this or this? The women around him would say, hey, Keith's starting a new project. He thought you might be interested. Would you like to come to Albany and learn about it? So even for me as somebody in Vancouver, as an aspiring actress, to get on a plane and have a meeting with him was a big ask. So there's a lot of things that I was invited to do that I just didn't do. And I found out later that would have been the first step to getting closer to him. And then women have since shared with me that it would have been things like the women would have been asked if they wanted to, evolve their trust issues or something. And that would look like a spiritual guidance thing from him, and then so on and so forth. So why were we talking about that? We were talking...
Well, now I'm wondering about, did you feel that you could be seduced at any point of his power of, you're indoctrinated into this society, this community, this belief system. Was there any point, I understand that there are red flags, but I also understand you're trying to live a life and move up this career path. What's going on in your head? And did you feel yourself being pulled in a way that you're like, I need to get myself together here? What was that like?
Well, there was many different stages in my 12 years there. Actually, one of the reasons why, let's plug this up here, why I wrote Scarred.
You can point to that camera right there.
is because I wanted to lay out the map for how it happened. And after I got out of NXIVM, I was like, how did I miss the red flags? How did I?
Nobody decides to join a cult.
Nobody decides to join a cult. They join something good. And I really wanted to show what was good about it at first and how wonderful it was. And truthfully, Allison, there were many wonderful years at the beginning. And my first interactions, obviously we're sharing the bad things and the red flags, but amidst all of that weirdness was incredible friendship and community and really, I don't want to say good times because it doesn't even wrap it up, but traveling, events, putting on trainings for other people where I got to help people work through huge, life-changing, we call them integrations, which is basically like therapy. People would go through therapy with us and evolve their shit in a very quick, efficient way. And I got a lot of gratification out of that. It's very valuable for me. I love to help people. It's part of the fawning thing, by the way, which I'm learning about, to be a fixer, caretaker, a mother. People always called me a mother hen. It was a really natural role for me, and I loved it. And all of that goodness masked the continuing weird things. There was always weird things my whole 12 years. And every time Nippy and I interview someone on our podcast.
Nippy's your husband. Sorry,
Nippy's my husband that I met there. Anthony, we call him Nippy. It's a long story. You can read about it in the book. We always ask people, what was I just talking about? Sorry, what was good about it? What was the...
Yeah, I think just there were so many good things that were going on as well as the red flags.
And every person that we've talked to in our podcast says that to some degree something like it was so good until it wasn't, or the things that were a bit off weren't bad enough. It was weird, but not quite weird enough. Because the good has to outweigh it until it doesn't. And there's just a balance. And I can get to later, we'll make sure we'll circle back to, that tipping point for me. But yeah, I spent 12 years there. And your question earlier was, could I ever been seduced, do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I always had this feeling that kept me at arm's length from Keith. If anything, I was more hooked into Nancy Salzman, who was his sort of lieutenant, his second in command, or first in command, and her daughter, Lauren. So those are people that I probably put on a pedestal more and would have pretty much done whatever they had asked. But with Keith, I I thought that feeling was more about that I wasn't like smart enough for him, or that
that's how you felt?
Yeah, or that it was my own issue about not being like ready to be vulnerable enough with him.
Did you feel like he was as smart as he claimed he was?
Yeah, I did. I really did think. I mean, I didn't think he was attractive, but I did have immense respect for the curriculum that I thought he created. I didn't know he.
I have brain crushes on people.
Yeah, it was definitely a brain crush. I had a lot of respect for him. I looked up for him. By the time I met him, he'd already been definitely put on a pedestal. But I didn't think he was attractive. Later, after he like had a makeover, I remember thinking that he had gotten cuter. But it was more like, oh, you're a little cute professor, like with your little vest and you know what I mean? But I was never like, oh, I want to. No, it was and if anything, because of my own insecurities, thought that I didn't, like we were taught that we should never ask for his time to ask him about something if we could ask somebody else, because his time is worth so much. So I didn't really have anything to ask him about, and I didn't feel like that I could open up to him about it, which I thought was my own lack of depth, which is something that I got feedback about. Like we all had our issues in NXIVM.
Wow.
I was controlling, I'm still controlling, just how I am. Now I've accepted. I like to control things. It's actually part of fawning also, make things okay.
Oh.
Yep, you're going to love this book. It's really, really good. I think everyone should read this book. It's not all women fawn, but anyway, plug for Ingrid. And the other issue was that I was too surface. I was too materialistic. And my attachment to materialism was preventing me from having a depthy connection to myself and to others.
It feels so heady. Like you guys are constantly analyzing each other and yourselves.
So much.
What was fun? What was like really light and exciting?
You're so right. There was so much headiness and so much overanalyzing, and everyone was like talking about their issues, and like people were issue-fied, like so-and-so's suffering and so-and-so's, got their anger issues, and so-and-so's being so prideful. Like pride was a big issue. Like
pathology sounds like a big issue too.
Yes. Like pathologizing people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And in some ways, parts of that were kind of fun to be able to like
be seen
and kind of like poke fun at each other in a way that was like, brought these things up to a surface. And in many ways, it was a type of relationship that I preferred, because I found relating to people out in the real world was sort of like small talk.
Well, let's talk about us versus them.
Yeah.
Which us versus them has always been cult language, right? Yeah. Did that show up early on?
Yes, right away. And let me remind me to come back to what was fun, because I will. So I got a bookmark.
I'll try.
Us versus them right from the beginning. There's a lot of personal development out there. At the time there was Tony Robbins was big, Landmark was big, and we thought that we had the best way to evolve, and that we had the only way to really get to the root cause of issues, and that everybody else was just putting Band-Aids on things. And when I looked out in the world and saw people, living their lives or doing other programs, I just kind of felt bad for them. I thought that we were the best. And we really did have an air of superiority, which all cults do. We are the best. Everybody else is subpar. And that created a real isolation, and also fortified the isolation. Even though we weren't in a compound, it became more and more of an emotional island as we became more solidified as a group. And that also pushed other people away. Like people around me either decided to jump in because they wanted to be in that group, or they became more skeptical and judgy of it. So it made a divide. And all cults have this. And to answer your question about the fun.
Yeah.
Traveling. Like I got to go on a private jet to Alaska. That was amazing. I got to go to multiple famous homes of famous people, A-list celebrities in Hollywood, and do trainings for them in their home. And it wasn't just the training. We'd be having lunch together and going out afterwards. And it was glamorous at a time. There were parts of it that were kind of amazing for a young woman in her 30s to be living that kind of glitzy lifestyle.
But I think even the adjacency, the proximity to power, and that it would attract celebrities. So Allison Mack was Superman, was it?
Smallville.
Yeah. And it was attracting these famous actors The Dalai Lama, that was the craziest story
Yeah.
ever. Was it the Dalai Lama?
Yes, the Dalai Lama. So this is still yet to be, we don't know for sure exactly what happened, but it seemed like he was invited through the Bronfmans, who were an heiress family that were
The ginger ale.
Seagrams. Yeah. So they were big supporters and had given already millions of dollars to Keith and to NXIVM for legal fees. And he like gambled a bunch of that money as well. And he, through her connections, knew someone who knew the Dalai Lama and invited him to come, and he was going to, and then found out about the controversy, because people have been calling NXIVM a cult for a long time. And Keith and Nancy actually flew to Dharamsala and had a sitting with him. This is in the vow, because of course they filmed it, and basically explained
They filmed everything.
They filmed everything, yeah, which is
To their demise.
exactly, and eventually convinced him to come back. We have heard that that convincing also included a $1 million donation to his whatever he does, his fund.
Okay.
His organization. Yeah. So apparently, whether it's, it was a paid
play,
visit.
right.
Yeah. He came back. They had a talk in downtown Albany. The Dalai Lama like put a scarf around Keith's neck, which was very symbolic in our community because we had our sashes. So it was a big deal. Like I was still in NXIVM at that time, and I felt very validated. I thought, well, if the Dalai Lama is saying that we're good, of course the rest of the world is going to see it soon. And also at the same time, we had apparently found a cure for Tourette's.
That was the wildest thing. Do you feel like, so these claims that so there were 2 docuseries, right? There was volume 1, volume 2 for HBO's series, The Vow. That was on NXIVM. And in the second one, good Lord. I thought it would be like the scraps from the first one, but it was like more what the fuck than the first one. But what was I talking about? No, I'm lost.
Tourette's.
Tourette's.
Yeah.
That they were essentially giving people to Tourette's, and then they would go through this program, and all of a sudden it was gone. Is there any legitimacy to it?
I think that the legitimacy of the Tourette's cure is that, and listen, I'm not a doctor or a neuro specialist or anything, but I think that for some of the people that had Tourette's, what the tech did, the tools of NXIVM did, was help people slow down their sort of impulses. Because what I understand with Tourette's is that you have an impulse to scratch or do a certain behavior and you can't stop it, and you have to like indulge the impulse. And so the work that we did slowed people down, had people have more of a sense of like calm and inner peace, that they could circumvent that and then unhook that impulse with the actual, action. And some people also, and I've spoken to a few of them since, they're in the documentary, say they were eventually, once they had a taste of that, they were also afraid to tick or to do the behaviors. So because they wanted to like get the job, they were fawners too.
Yeah.
They wanted to make it provable that this worked. So they kind of learned to sit on it's almost like they suppressed their impulses, which I relate to because for my version of it, like I don't have Tourette's, obviously, but all of us have impulses, don't eat the cheesecake. I want to eat the cheesecake. You have a goal, sorry, not to eat the cheesecake, but the impulse is to eat the cheesecake. Or, I have the impulse to go to the gym. A goal to go to the gym, but my impulse and my desire, my body wants to stay in bed. We're trying to like navigate what we want in our heads ideologically with what our body wants physiologically.
Yeah.
So it's like a internal struggle. So I felt that very real way my whole time in NXIVM as I was working through my issues. Let's say I had a stimulus response pattern, which is how we evolved a pattern of an issue, is like to get really angry when, I don't know, my boyfriend leaves dishes in the sink and I get angry about that. I could understand what the dishes mean and how it like triggers some old thing from my childhood and my parents' divorce. And then once I understand that, it doesn't mean that anymore. And that's sort of what we did in NXIVM. That's a short version of an EM, exploration of meaning. But when I go to see if it's an issue for me anymore and I live my life and I see the dishes, it might not trigger me, or it might a little bit. And I go, okay, no, I'm going to override that because everything's fine and he still loves me and the dishes are just dishes and I'm going to not indulge the impulse.
Good Lord.
Right?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So I think that happened for a lot of people. They kind of learned to override how they were actually feeling to be joyful.
Do you feel like there was a collective disassociation
Yes.
that is required?
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
That's the toxic positivity. Everything's fine.
right.
And a lot of cults have this, especially religion. We're good. We're so happy.
But wasn't that kind of the de rigueur anyway
Yeah.
at that time in
Yes.
2005 that it wasn't called toxic positivity?
No.
It was you need to think positive, and that and it was just part of in the zeitgeist.
Yes, setting is part of. It was like the whole The Secret and even What the Bleep. It's part of that whole world of like setting intentions and visualizing. It's spiritual bypassing. Is really what it is. It's overriding the work that needs to be done and skipping right to everything's fine. Like so many spiritual people are so fine.
There were a
And
lot of problematic things that were going on as time went on. One of them was that the women were deeply, deeply obsessed with being thin.
Yes.
And eating and food. Obviously, there was a lot of sex exploitation. And coercion and coercive control that was happening more and more. And then even with minors, I mean,
And all of that came out in the trial. Like when we blew the whistle, we knew what we had experienced, but it got even worse. Like when the trial happened and people testified that we didn't even know had been hurt. Yeah, it was horrific.
And, I want to be sensitive to you about what it was like when you woke up. And whatever you feel comfortable sharing, how did you realize it was time?
It was time. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many things that happened, like I said, over the 12 years that were weird, bad, uncomfortable that I put on the shelf. Like a little incident.
Isn't that what they call it?
Yeah.
Put it on the shelf?
Put it on the shelf. I'd be like, okay, that just happened. Put it on the shelf. Did he really just say that to me? I'll put that on the shelf. Interactions, moments, some big, some small, that I couldn't wrap my head around, or I didn't.
Did you feel like you were stuck in it?
Oh, yeah. But I also had like committed this. I thought I would be doing this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like I'd found my passion, my purpose. Lauren, Nancy's daughter, who I mentioned, like we joked that we would be boobies in our tracksuits.
Lauren married you and your husband.
Lauren married Nippy and I. She was the godmother of our child. She was like my best friend. She's my confidant, everything. I thought I was in it for the long haul. But all of those things started to pile up. And then ultimately, a number of things happened in the last 3 months that were really bad. And that is another reason why I wrote Scarred, is because it's very complicated to explain how I eventually figured out what was going on and why I joined. Lauren invited me into a secret group within NXIVM called DOS. She told me it had nothing to do with NXIVM, but of course that's ridiculous. Not knowing what we know now.
Do you remember what DOS stood for?
It's like Dominus Obsequium Sororium or something like that. We weren't told what it meant at the time, but
It just sounded fancy.
DOS, which now we know means like master over the slaves or something like that. It's and every name that Keith had for every single one of his programs has a like double meaning, or like even NXIVM comes from the root word nexum, which is indentured servitude.
Holy fuck.
So he was also a computer nerd. So DOS,
Yeah.
there's just little inside
And even
jokes.
tech, calling the curriculum tech, the technology.
As if it's a technology, which is absolutely
and wasn't
not.
it like the science of joy? Is that what it was?
Science of joy, yeah.
Which sounds so appealing.
It sounds so appealing, yeah. And when Lauren invited me to DOS, it was pitched as a boot camp for women, like a next level for my growth with her, and that she'd be my mentor, which is really the main reason I did it, because even though we were close, it was very difficult to get her time. And what she was saying is, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to mentor you. All you need to do is take a lifetime vow of obedience, which actually to me wasn't such a big deal, because I'd already done that in my mind. I was already
What did that look like, a lifetime of obedience in your mind?
That's one thing that was part of this program, is that like if you were committing to it, you're basically committing to like a heightened version of what we did in NXIVM. Like someone else is going to train me and I can't question it. Essentially, like I'm saying yes, and I've got to say yes to everything. And I even said at the beginning, "What if you asked me to rob a bank?" And she's, "Of course I'm not gonna do that. There's gonna be things that are good for you and your growth." So I trusted that, which naively, that would be, if it was what it was supposed to have been, same with NXIVM, it would have been great. Like if I say, hey, I'm going to mentor you, and you're asking for help from me, and I say, okay, Allison, for your goals, just do this, this, and this, and you have to do it. and I have your best intentions in mind, or your best interest in mind, and I have good intentions, that could be great, because you're going to have accountability and you're going to, do the things you say you're going to do. But it wasn't that, obviously.
You had to give collateral.
To give collateral. Yeah, to give something to her to hold, to make sure that I would never speak of it, so that it was secret. And
essentially blackmail.
Blackmail, yeah. That's what NXIVM called collateral. It was actually blackmail. But the reason that I really wanted to write it out is that there was many, many, many steps along the way. It wasn't just like, okay, cool, I'm going to do this thing. It happened in stages, and every stage was easily explained as like sort of normal within the constructs of the indoctrination of the 12 years. But even still, like if I had just met you and, the way that we met and we became friends, and then I was like, hey, Allison, I want to invite you to like a secret group, and it's just like for badass bitches.
I'd be into it.
Yeah, right? Like
it's all based on trust, though.
Yeah, it's based on trust. Like we have that trust. If you met someone just random on the street, you'd be like, you're weird and get away from me.
Yeah.
Lauren was probably the person I trusted the most. So every time, every step along the way, when I was like, ooh, this is weird. You want a photo of me to hold? A nude photo, by the way. So yeah, it's just for me. No one else is going to see it. And we've changed in front of each other before. We're very close. We've gone to yoga together. Like that in and of itself wasn't weird. But the whole package, very bad, very weird. So again, there's so many things that happened along the way, but it ended up in what was supposed to be a ceremony where I was going to get a tattoo and an initiation with my sisters. It was a sorority. It was pitched to me as a sorority. I never had a sorority where I grew up in Canada.
And you were seeking community from the get-go.
Seeking community and growth. And I'd kind of stagnated. I was a green sash by then. Remember, I wanted to be a green sash at the beginning. I had reached my goal of green sash. I was still not through all my issues. I was still not happy. And I thought this would be the thing to kind of kickstart it. And ironically, it was, because the night of the tattoo ended up being, let's show our viewers here, a brand. And I didn't know that humans could be branded. I knew that cattle could be branded. I'm not going to go into the details of that night. It's in the book. It's actually how the book starts. So if people want to learn about what that was like, read it. I just don't. I don't want to put my nervous system through that discussion. But 8 years later, it's still hard to talk about. But it wasn't actually that event that woke me up. And for the record, there was no anesthetic. It was on my pelvis. It was around. Under my bikini line.
Tattoos?
I have no tattoos. I don't have any tattoos. The most painful thing I've done in my body, other than giving birth, was like laser hair removal.
Right.
So it was very, very painful. Totally disassociated. Cracked jokes to try to make people laugh during it, because it was just like so weird and horrible. And it was actually weeks later when Mark Vicente, the guy who from What the Bleep, who had brought me in, was leaving NXIVM and told me, and after I signed his NDA, that he was leaving because he'd heard, a number of different things, but one of the things that was concerning to him is that he'd heard about a secret women's group and that involved sex with Keith.
And he didn't know you were in it.
He didn't know I was in it. I lived in Vancouver.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was trying to give him hints. Some of these phone calls are in the vow where I'm like, if somebody was in it, they wouldn't be able to tell the person that they, right. I was trying to. But he had found out about the sex, and I knew about the branding. And finally, we shared the information we knew, and we knew that we had to get out. But the main, when you say like what caused me to wake up, the main sort of like aha was figuring out that the symbol on my body was not a symbol for the elements, which is what I'd been told, but it was actually his initials in a cryptic monogram. Oh. Yeah, so I had Keith's initials on my body, and that was a major mindfuck, as you can imagine. And that, in combination with figuring out that like Keith was having sex with people and not celibate, I just flipped my world upside
You
down.
found this all out at the same time?
In a very short period of time.
Wow.
Yeah. Mark and I spoke, figured out that the symbol was not what I was told it was. Everything unraveled very quickly. It wasn't like, should I stay or go? It was like, how do I get out? How do I, in a couple of, at first I wasn't going to try to like take it down. It was just, we got to extract ourselves. And then as I found out more and more people that had been recruited into DOS, including women in my center that I'd built in Vancouver, Someone who had never even been to Albany didn't know Keith, didn't know that their personal information, photos, videos were like his personal spank bank.
Oh, no.
I know. So it was like, I was really mad, as you can imagine. I was such a sick fuck. So I went, after that, it was kind of guns a-blazing.
Okay, that was part 1. Sarah, you are amazing. And you are going to want to hear how she got out and what happened next in part 2. What struck me most about talking with Sarah is how ordinary it all seemed at first. The language, the goals, the structure, the people, it all looked like personal growth until it wasn't. In part 2, Sarah is going to open up about what happened after the takedown, how she rebuilt trust in herself, the hidden ways cult-like behavior shows up in politics. You know this, especially right now, wellness, and even everyday communities, and what it really takes to seek safely without losing yourself in the process. I've linked all of her info in the show notes. Please shoot her a DM and tell her you heard it here. And as for you, 2026, it is barreling towards us so fast. If you're looking to reinvent yourself as a top podcaster and business owner in the new year, let's talk now. Book a free call with me at AllisonHair.com/free call. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week. If you liked today's episode, there are several ways to support the show. I produce this show myself, so it helps me continue to make it. First, please rate and review the show on the platform where you listen, and consider sharing this episode with a friend or 5. That's how it grows, by sharing these ideas. Second, please sign up for my email where I send out a short personal note to you every week, and always with a sprinkle of snark and some best finds. You can sign up at AllisonHair.com/email. As always, thanks for listening and hanging out with me in the Reinvention Room.